Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zoya Akhtar, and on behalf of the Center for Air Power Studies, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to our seminar commemorating 50 years of India's victory at the 1971 Indo-Pak War. Our chief guest for the event is Chief of the Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal RKS Bhadoria, PVSM, AVSM, VM, ADC. We are honored to have you with us, sir. On behalf of CAPS, I would like to extend a warm welcome to you. To begin with today's program, I would like to invite Air Marshal Anil Chopra, Director General CAPS, to deliver the welcome remarks.
Air Chief Marshal Bhadoria, former chiefs, senior dignitaries, air veterans, especially those who have participated in the 1971 war, air warriors, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you, and welcome to this first hybrid event, and so nice to see physical presence of each one of you. In fact, your presence is a blessing for us in CAPS. 50 years after the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971, it is time to recollect the great air campaigns and to reflect on the changes that have helped make India a significant power. The 14-day war, we all know, began with the anticipated Pakistan Air Force strike, a preemptive strike on 3rd December 1971. The PAF targeted 11 airfields and some other installations, but achieved minimal damage. This also paved the way for India's formal entry into the war for East Pakistan's independence and ultimate creation of Bangladesh. The war ended with the surrender of Pakistan's Eastern Command in Dhaka on 16 December. Over 93,000 Pakistani personnel were taken prisoners in the greatest surrender after World War II. The IF engaged in every facet of air operations, and air power was one of the significant contributors to that historic victory. Pakistan Army had begun blatant killing of civilians in East Pakistan and supported arson and rape by a pro-Islamist militia in one of the worst genocides. Bangladeshi freedom fighters formed the Mukti Bahani, a guerrilla resistance movement comprising of Bangladeshi military and paramilitary personnel and civilians. The Pakistani atrocities resulted in thousands being killed and also led to nearly 10 million refugees flooding into eastern states of India. Facing a mounting humanitarian and economic crisis, India started supporting the Mukti Bahani with equipment and training. Pakistan Air Force was clearly reluctant to strike its own people in the East Pakistan, but the Pakistan Army felt that was equivalent of treason. In fact, the PAF had assured the Bangladeshi personnel for their safety, but on the pressure from Pakistan Army, finally the Pakistan Air Force began striking the liberation forces in support of the army operations. By November, the IF strength in the east included 3 squadrons of MiG-21s, 4 of Hunters, 3 of Nats, 1 Su-7, and 1 Canberra squadron. There were 3 Dakota squadrons, 2 AN-12s, 1 Caribou, 1 Otter, and 1 Packet squadron. And there were 3 flights each of Mi-4 and LV-3 helicopters. On the other side, the Pakistan Air Force had 16 Sabres, 2 T-33 trainers, and 8 helicopters. The IF had actually begun the recce flights in East Pakistan as early as June. The IF also helped the Mukti Bahani organize a unit of light aircraft called the Kilo Flight, which was manned by Bengali pilots and technicians who had defected from the PAF. The Kilo Flight had launched attacks on targets in Bangladesh just before the war and thereafter carried out missions throughout the war. The first air combat action took place between Nats and Sabres on 22nd November in now famous Battle of Boera. The Pakistanis lost 2 aircraft, one was damaged, and they were now already down to 14 operational aircraft. Full air operations in the east began on 4 December. On 6 December, 4 MiG-21s of number 28 Squadron, led by Wing Commander Bishnoi, bombed the Tejgaon airfield, scoring several hits on the runway. They bombed Tejgaon again on 7th and carried on bombing it again and again through the war to prevent repairs. With 50% of personnel defecting, the PAF also lacked the servicing facilities for sustaining prolonged operations. Finally, PAF began evacuating the Sabre pilots starting 8th of December, and by 10th December, all the PAF Sabre pilots had been evacuated, effectively grounding PAF in the east. PAF Sabres were not cleared for night operation, therefore air defenses at night were mostly by Ack guns. The IF fighters also mostly flew daytime missions. As the PAF bases were being repeatedly attacked, the Sabres were carrying out combat air patrol missions, and that resulted in many dogfights in the initial days till the Sabre pilots physically left Pakistan, Bangladesh. I must also mention that the Sabre pilots fought very well, despite the disadvantages that they had. The IF, having achieved early dominance in the east, Indian Army could run a lightning campaign towards Dhaka, and it also allowed carrying out bold operations like the Tangail airdrop and the Meghna River heli crossing. The outstanding Army-Air Force cooperation for the 2 joint operations and the role played by Lieutenant General Sagat Singh, the co-commander, and then Group Captain Chandan Singh, Station Commander Jorhat, has already become a part of the military folklore. Meanwhile, the IF had factored and was prepared for possible contingency of Chinese intervention and also of air action by the US 7th Fleet, which had already moved into Bangladesh, into Bay of Bengal area. On 14 December, MiG-21s and Hunters attacked the Dhaka Governor House with rockets, turning the building into a smoldering wreck. The East Pakistan governor, who was holding a meeting over there, was so shaken up that he resigned on the spot, hastening the process of surrender. Interestingly, 4 Hunters of 14 squadrons from Kalaikunda operated at Jessore for 2 days on 14th to 16th of December. There are great stories of the operations by all the fleets, and since there are speakers through the day, I am not covering those details. The IF reportedly lost 19 aircraft in the east, 3 in air combat, 6 to accidents, and 10 to Ack fire. 5 PAF Sabres were shot down, and remaining were grounded because their pilots left. PAF headquarters had issued instructions to blow up all the aircraft in the east before the pilots were leaving, but the station commander there decided to destroy the ammunition, but only deactivate the hydraulic and electrical systems of the aircraft. With the result, after the war, Tezgaon Airport was made operational by 25th December. The Kilo flight was moved there, and on the initial, for the initial period, the Indian Air Force officers, they administered the air base because the Bangladesh Air Force was still forming up. 8 Sabres, 1 T-33 trainer, and 3 Elwits, and 1 Otter were made serviceable by March of 1972. So that is how the Bangladesh Air Force got going. Clearly, one of the most important factors for the quick liberation of Bangladesh was the total air supremacy that Indian Air Force had gained. Pakistan Army's military strategy in the Western Front was based on winning an overwhelming victory so as to get bargaining power for their losses in the East. But after a not so successful preemptive strike, the PAF adopted a defensive stance in response to IF's very heavy retaliatory strikes. IF's air campaign in the west began with Canberra's beginning bombing on the night of 3rd December. On 8 December, IF hunters of 20 Squadron from Pathankot attacked the PAF Murid airbase and destroyed 5 F-86 on the ground. IF flew interdiction missions to throttle supplies to the Pakistan Army and battlefield strike missions to support Indian Army's ground offensive in all these sectors. The IF's air strikes over Karachi airfield and installations had a serious demoralizing effect, and IF continued relentless day and night attacks till the end of the war. AN-12s were extensively used for night bombing. More of the offensive operations will be covered through the day. PAF took a deliberate decision to cut further losses, and they moved large number of aeroplanes to Iranian air bases and put most of the other aircraft into blast pens, refusing to take on the Indian Air Force. The number of sorties flown by PAF began reducing day by day. The war in the West also saw many air combat engagements in which IF outclassed the PAF for single-handedly engaging 6 sabres and shooting down 2. Nirmaljit Singh Sekhon won in IF's first and the only Paramveer Chakra. The MiG-21s were able to outclass the technically superior F-104s in all the 4 engagements that they have had between them. I flew nearly 2,000 fighter bomber sorties in the east and about 4,000 sorties in the west, against PAF's 30 fighter sorties in the east and little less than 3,000 sorties in the west. We in CAPS got together a significant number of air veterans and scholars to write a book covering the entire gamut of air operations of that war. H.E. Marshal P.C. Lal was at the helm of affairs as the Air Chief. He carried out, he had years of operational and administrative experience when the war broke out. He had been the Vice Chief during 1965 war. He was known for being cool, calm, and sophisticated taskmaster with the clarity of mind and thought. He not only oversaw the build-up of the 1971 war, but also had time for reflection thereafter because his tenure carried on till 1973. Our book looks at how he saw and orchestrated the air war, which is well covered in his personal memoirs, My Years in the IAF. Starting from force levels of the two sides, the book looks at the offensive and operations both in the eastern and western sectors. It covers the joint operations. There is a chapter on the operational approach and psyche of Pakistan Air Force. The chapter of the Battle of Longewala highlights the responsiveness and decisive impact of air power. We have looked at the Canberra and AN-12 bombing operations. The helicopters played a big role, especially in the east. The fighter air controllers, the FACs, played a very significant operational role in guiding the attacking aircraft to their targets. The book also revisits India's national strategy during that period and also how the 1971 war altered Pakistan's strategic posture. We have also covered the scenarios of conventional war under nuclear overhang. Officers of CAPS and interactive sessions with the AVM Bishnoi, VRC and BAR to write his accounts. There is a narrative about Kill of Flight by Group Captain Shamshul Alam, a veteran of Bangladesh Liberation War, who is also attending this webinar and will be a speaker later in the day. Our book should make interesting reading for practitioners of air power and for researchers and military aviation historians. I feel happy to say that many heroes of the war are in the audience today. Despite COVID and many who had promised to come and could not make it last minute, but I'm happy to say that the entire Indian Air Force and a large number of veterans are watching our event on the web. The idea of the book evolved during my first meeting with the Air Chief when I took over as the DG CAPS. Many veterans helped us shape our mind. In my discussions with Arjun Subramaniam, we evolved the initial broad structure of the book, but I must convey my appreciation for Dr. Shalini Chawla, the co-editor of this book, and Kalpana Shukla, the publisher, for helping realize the book so quickly. It's been done in less than 4 months. I think that needs a little appreciation. I once again welcome you all to this hybrid event. May I now request the Air Chief to kindly address the gathering, and thereafter I will request you, sir, to release the book.
Director General CAPS, Air Marshal Anil Chopra, former chiefs, esteemed veterans, distinguished panelists, dignitaries, speakers and guests, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to thank DG CAPS for inviting me here to be part of this seminar and the topic 50 years of Indo-Pak War, Victory in the Air, also to release the book. And before I begin, my deep appreciation and gratitude to all the 71 veterans. We can never thank you enough for what you've done for the Air Force and the nation. And I consider it a singular honor and a privilege to be speaking in your presence, both physically here or online. The victory in the 71 war was a landmark event in global history, and indeed the most glorious event in the annals of our history. On signing of the instrument of surrender on 16 December 71 in Dhaka, East Pakistan ceased to exist and the sovereign nation of Bangladesh was born. The largest military surrender after the Second World War shattered the prestige of the Pakistan military and left 93,000 Pakistani prisoners in captivity. Pakistan lost a third of its army, half its navy, a quarter of its air force, bringing an end to the atrocities the Pakistan army had unleashed through its Operation Searchlight on the predominantly Bengali population of the East Pakistan. I am very glad that today we are also graced by the presence of Group Captain Shamshul Alam, Swadhinta Patak, Veer Uttam, retired Bangladeshi Air Force. He was one of the pioneering officers of the Kilo flight at Dimapur. On 3rd of December 71, he, along with Captain Akram, in a modified auto aircraft, undertook the very first offensive mission, which was against a refinery in Chittagong. The success of the mission set the tempo for rest of the air operations. Ladies and gentlemen, the 71 Indo-Pak War was the last traditional war with both the sides deploying second-generation aircraft and weapons with largely technological symmetry. There was no asymmetry as such, technology-wise, except for the SAM-2s that India had brought in and deployed. While IF enjoyed overwhelming numerical superiority in the east with the 9 squadrons and largely opposed by Sabres, as mentioned by the Director General, positioned at Tejgaon and some other supporting aircraft. In the west, however, the two sides that faced each other with about 234 Indian Air Force aircraft and 215 from the PAF side. While the Indian Army's plan was to carry out a lightning campaign in the east and liberate Dhaka before foreign intervention could stalemate the war, in the west the aim was only to carry out such actions as would improve our own defensive posture and to be able to hold, and offensives as required to prevent the Pak army to launch its one core offensive. The IF had made a textbook plan for itself, absorb the initial preemptive, which IF was sure would come, and carry out DIAD missions thereafter as soon as the war started against the PAF, SOC North and South at Sakesar and Badin, which was very crucial. Simultaneously carry out a very intense counter-air campaign, which was quickly followed up with interdiction and close-air support. The air-land battle was well planned, well orchestrated, and there were about 28 FSCs deployed in the west with about 12 in the east, and that is the level of kind of planning and close-air support action that went on. Intensive training paid off, especially at Cham, Shakargarh and Nayachor in the west, and Rangamati, Brahmanbaria, Maiman Singh and Jamalpur, to name a few, in the east. As we celebrate the 50th year of this momentous campaign, it is important to recall some of the highlights. I will try and avoid duplication where DG Caps has mentioned some details, very interesting details. And I'm sure during the course of seminar and discussions and the speakers will bring out many more things. But on the larger picture, I think after the late entry into our campaign in the 65 war, IF had learned its lessons. And this time in the 71, it was attack, attack, and attack all the way. Several PAF and Pak army writers themselves would later comment that the IF's resolve forced the Pakistanis to settle west of the Tavi River. Surprisingly, PAF flew a total of just 32 sorties in support of their troops in the Cham sector, which was becoming so critical at that time. This was less than a day's effort that IF was doing. On the other hand, IF closer support, as acknowledged by Pak commentators also, blunted the enemy's advance in Shakargarh and the desperate last-ditch battles around Husainwala and Sulaimanki. While the heroic actions by Poona Horse and Arun Khetrapal in the Battle of Barapind and Basantar are legendary, the IF played no small part in decimating the Pak 8 in-depth armored brigade in the Shakargarh Bulge, flying 148 sorties and also losing 4 aircraft in the process in that. The IF was even called in to carry out low-level supersonic runs and also bomb the extensive minefields in order that the army can proceed. IF Mystiers, which were on their last legs during that time, flew a lot and severely disrupted the entire rail system west of Ganganagar sector, preventing the Pak 1 Corps offensive from concentrating in the Bawalnagar area. While the deeds of the hunter from OTU at Longewala created history, and we are all well aware of that, destroying and routing as they did an entire Pak cavalry regiment. Single-handedly, they changed the course of the war in the desert. Similarly, vintage vampires from Srinagar carried out extremely precarious missions over Kargil and all the way to Totruk, and also carried out night attacks against the Pakistani railway stations taking off from Halwara. The Canberras, much talked about in those days, did all the heavy lifting of the counter-air operations, especially by night. Sargodha, Rafiki and Masroor were put out, and between them, I think a combined total of 7 days. However, it was the hunter that must be given the appellation of the star of the show. Its deep strike raids against Mianwali and Peshawar were the deepest by any jet aircraft in that age, and in fact, even 11 years later in the Falkland Wars, even the Argentinian Mirages and Skyhawks were short of the range. Single aircraft struck Sakesar 400 kilometers away at low level. Other hunters destroyed 6 sabres in one strike at Murid, put out the Sakesar radar for 3 days at Badin, and brought down 5 sabres in an air combat. So more than any other fighter, the hunter produced brilliant results, even though it suffered routine debilitating gun stoppages and at times bomb hang-ups. The Su-7 on their part played a game-changing role too at Cham, Shakargarh and Husainiwala. It also became the most damaged aircraft, or in terms of attrition, suffered a lot of attrition, and practically in our fleets the highest attrition. Overall, the IF flew 6,542 sorties in these missions, which was nearly double of what PAF flew. Transport and airdrop operations and heli lifts in the east across the mammoth riverine obstacles leapfrogged our army right to the doorstep of Dhaka. That was crucial. It foreclosed the eastern operations in less than 10 days, and I'm sure a lot of that will get discussed. With 71,000 army troops rendered irrelevant in strong garrisons far from Dhaka. IF transport operations numbered nearly 4,800 sorties, a huge effort, including 160 sorties towards maritime support, be it for hunting for PNS Hangor or for the SAR effort. IF hunters and MiGs also provided caps for the naval jetty at Oka and Bombay Harbour, as well as the naval strike with a boat attack at Karachi Harbour, which you are all well aware of. There is no doubt that the Indian Air Force played a crucial role in this war. After responding to the preemptive strikes from Pakistan, the air campaign executed a strategy of enabling the army to hold on to the west, to hold on to the ground in the west, while running an offensive air campaign in the east. The IF obliterated the PAF in the east, as has been adequately brought out by DG Caps already, and thereby allowed unhindered run for the Indian Army towards Dhaka joint operations. The IF dealt the final coup de grace with the bombing of Governor's House, which resulted in a historical surrender and expedited the surrender and creation of a nation. I am glad that today many facets of this glorious chapter would be dwelt upon by distinguished speakers and historians. As India and Bangladesh celebrate 50 years of the victory of Swarnim Vijay Varsh, IF is very proud of its history and especially the achievements of its air veterans who have shaped the IF till then and thereafter. The sessions planned today and the book on 71 Air War would enhance our understanding and refresh our memories of the war and motivate the next generation. My compliments to the Director General CAPS and his entire team for conducting this event, and my best wishes for the upcoming sessions. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a book release titled The 1971 Indo-Pak Air War, Reflections and Projections. I would like to invite the co-editor, Dr. Shalini Chawla, and the publisher, Mrs. Kalpana Shukla of KV Publishers, to the stage for the book release. I'd like to request the contributors of the book to kindly come up on the stage for a photograph.